The Samsung Galaxy Note 20, it's amazing. Oh wait, the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, it's amazing. The Galaxy S20 series was quite good too. Now, what these phones have in common is the fact that they're all priced upwards of 70,000 rupees. Now, what if I told you there is actually a phone which can deliver this kind of a flagship experience quite close, but at less than 50,000 rupees? Is that something that would interest you? If it does, watch on. If not, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon and do all that before you leave. Hey guys, Ash here from C4 eTech, and if you do end up finding this video interesting, please subscribe, turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon. I just said it. Alright, let's just get started. First off, let's start with the build. A little while back, I did a video on how the Galaxy S10 Plus fares in 2020. And today in this video, if it's not obvious by now, I'm going to be talking about the Galaxy S10, which is a hell of a deal today. And from a build and design perspective, the S10 is basically a smaller S10 Plus with a single punch hole instead of those dual selfie cameras. So almost everything that I said in that video holds true here too. So instead of boring you by saying the same thing again, I'm actually going to cut to a short clip from my video on the S10 Plus. This is also a glass sandwich design. The flowing edges, minimal bezels. The Galaxy S10 Plus's design, it holds up very well. From purely this design perspective, the S10 Plus could have actually launched in 2020 and it would still be well received. There's wireless charging, reverse wireless charging, IP68 water and dust resistance. The camera array is of course not of the boxy design that Samsung's going with this year, but that isn't necessarily better or worse than the S10 Plus's design. So build still ranks pretty high. All of this still applies to the S10. Guys, one thing worth noting here is that punch hole. Now, over the last 6 months, the technology with regards to punch holes, it's kind of gotten better. So punch holes have been getting progressively smaller. So when you pick up this S10, the first thing you're going to notice is, ooh, that's a big punch hole. Now, if you've not used any phone with a punch hole in the last 6 to 8 months, this is not something that you're going to note. And even if you've used the phone with a smaller punch hole like I've done, it took me a few days to get used to it, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be the same case with you as well. But in the interest of being thorough, I just wanted to let you guys know this is a small little caveat that you might or might not end up noticing. Anyway, I'm gonna cut to another short clip from the S10 Plus video, so let's roll that clip. The Bixby key, it's present. I mean, yes, it can be disabled, so it's not as annoying as it used to be, but it is still annoying nonetheless. I constantly kept hitting it because it is placed where some brands place the power button. But I guess this is something you get used to. The next caveat is something that exists with every phone that has a glass pack. Glass packs are slippery, they pick up fingerprints, etc. Now all that's same with the S10 too. One advantage the S10 has is that it's easier to wield. If you're somebody who likes single-handed usage, if you like smaller form factors, then you're gonna find yourself right at home with the S10. Now with the display, there's a small change. Compared to the S20, this is 6.1 inches instead of 6.2, but the aspect ratio is also a little different, meaning the surface area is just about the same. So there's no big difference in the amount of screen real estate that you get. So the media viewing experience is going to be similarly good. Now let's cut back one last time to my S10 Plus video. I promise this is the last time I'm doing flashbacks. So let's roll that clip. The second difference is those edges, they curve more on the S10 Plus. Some people hate that due to the reflections. Some find it more premium. If you're someone who likes it, then the S10 Plus might be the superior option for you. Now these two are minor differences. The big one, that's the refresh rate. The S10 Plus, it has a 60Hz panel compared to the S20 series is 120. That said, even with the S20 series, you still have to go 60Hz if you want to use Quad HD. So if resolution is important to you, then the S10 Plus is quite as good because it's still a typical flagship AMOLED panel. It's bright, the viewing angles are great. Barring the refresh, it's pretty much a 2020 panel. Now as you guys can see, the build and display, they still remain pretty relevant as of today. But the chip inside, the specs, they are a little older. Not by much. This has the Exynos 9820 chip, or Snapdragon 855 in certain markets. So this is a flagship chip from last year, so it still holds up really well. There is absolutely nothing on the Play Store that it cannot run. The performance remains top-notch. The Mali GPU inside, it can also power whatever game you throw at it. There are no heating issues whatsoever. Now, we did test out some of the popular game titles here, and remember, on the S20 or S20 Plus or any of the newer Samsung phones, you might be running the display at 120 Hz, so it might have to push double the frames, but that's not the case here, so it's quite comfortable for the GPU to handle whatever is thrown at it. Now, it's not just with gaming, even with regular day-to-day usage, One UI has been refined a lot, and the experience is very similar to what you'd get on the Note series or the current Gen S series. It's very, very smooth, very responsive, and very consistent, and that's one of the things that we've started to see more and more with Samsung's One UI. It's been pretty consistent, and it's the same with the S10 as well. Guys, do remember, Samsung now promises 3 years of updates for every phone, for every flagship phone from the S10. So given that it's about 1.5 years since the S10 came out, we still have a good 1.5 years left. A lot of competitors' flagships, they only offer 2 years of updates, so this is, from a software perspective, quite good. As for battery life, here's where the S10 offers a markedly different experience than the S20. The capacity is 600 mAh lower. Now, don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean the battery life is bad or anything. It's still good battery life. You can still get through one full day on a single charge, but it's just that you're going to end up with less left in the tank at the end of the day than with, say, the S20. But for all intents and purposes, the battery life here, you can classify it as good. From a charging perspective, it's got a slower charger, 15 watts compared to 25 watts on current gen. But given that the capacity is also lower, the charge times, they don't differ by a lot. Then your regular nice to haves like wireless charging, reverse wireless charging, and other extras including Samsung Pay, IP68 water and dust resistance. They are all present and accounted for here. And yeah, I almost forgot, NFC, stereo speakers, talking about which, this phone has something that even the S20 series or the Note 20 series doesn't have. And that's the headphone jack. Now, this is something in 2020 Samsung has started to remove from their flagships. So given this is not a 2020 flagship, it still retains that headphone jack, and that's pretty convenient for a lot of people. Now, as for optics, just like with the S10 Plus video, and no, I am not gonna cut back to that video. Just like that video, the question here is not, is the S10's camera is good, or are the S10's cameras good? Because the answer, we all know that the S10 has good optics. The question here is, how does it rank, or how does it compare to the current Gen S20 series' cameras? And the answer, surprisingly, is it's not that different. When you look at these side by sides, under good light, the pictures are pretty evenly matched. There are excellent colors, and the dynamic range is also quite as good. The ultra wides, they are pretty similar to, not as good as the primary, but hey, you don't expect that from ultra wides. Of course, if you do pixel peep, you can notice a few differences, but to the naked eye, you don't really notice much. And the same can be said of the telephoto as well. Now, the biggest change, the biggest challenge rather, is under low light, and here's where the S20 pulls ahead. The S10, it has a smaller sensor. It does have that fancy f1.5 to 2.4, the variable aperture thing, but I mean, compared to the S20's f1.8, more regular aperture, but the larger sensor of the S20 does give it an advantage. So the low light performance, while not as good as this generation S20 series, it's still quite good. If you actually look at this, these are not bad pictures. They only pale in comparison when you compare it to current gen flagships. Now, even with certain Chinese brands phones, flagships from 2020, I would say the S10 still does better than those. So from an optics perspective, there's not really much for us to complain. And guys, since this is the Exynos 9820 Snapdragon 855, there is no 8K video support, but 4K 60 FPS is present, and that's pretty good. If you want that super stable that we saw on 4K with the current gen S series, we can get the same experience here, but at 1080p. So again, nothing much to complain about. But you know where the S10 actually has a huge edge over the S20 series or the Note 20 series? It's with the price. Now this phone, it is almost always priced under 50,000 rupees. Sometimes, most of the times it's priced at 48. Sometimes I've seen it priced as low as 45,000 rupees. Now, given that we've got certain 60 Hz display toting, plastic back toting Samsung flagships, current gen flagships, priced at almost 90,000 rupees, this costs close to half of that. And it offers 90% of the experience. It's so good. So if you want a Samsung flagship in this price point, or rather, if you just want a Samsung flagship and you don't want to break the bank, you don't want to go rob a bank or like just rip your wallet apart or sell your kidneys or anything, then the S10 is going to be a very good option. I really like my time with this phone, and I've been spending a lot of time with current generation flagships, and even for somebody like me who's moving back to a last generation flagship from a current generation flagship, I did not notice a lot of differences with regards to performance. So if you're someone who's coming to the S10 from a phone that's older or a phone that's lower spec, then this is going to be a huge boost, and this is just going to be a very good experience, a flagship experience. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the Galaxy S10. What do you guys think? Is this a Samsung flagship that you could see yourself buy? Or do you feel there is some other Samsung phone that you would prefer? Or are you going to say, screw Samsung, I'm going to go pick up something else? If yes, let me know what. So with that, we get to the end of this video. Guys, I've tried out something a little different with this video. If you can identify what, let me know in the comments below. And if you can't identify it, but if you still feel the video came across well, again, let me know in the comments below. Your feedback's very important. With that, we get to the end of this video, and it's time for me to bid you adieu. Thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe, turn on notifications. You know what to do. Till next time, my name's Ash. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you soon. You've been watching C4E Tech. I kind of messed that up, didn't I? Bye-bye.